Now let's start the discussions. We have in the studio the national president of Team Popular Youth. Okay, Team of Popular Youth. We have Marcus Gaffey Adampa. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, particularly young people, they form over 50% of Ghana's population. And also, when we have many of them crying for a lot more jobs and their socio-economic lives to be improved, I guess it's the right time for us to have this very discussion. On a day when the president is expected to read before members of parliament the state of the nation address, that is just giving a true reflection of what the current state of the nation is, economy, social, whatever stratum you would want to define. Well, let's start the discussions now. Yes. What's your own expectation for the state of the nation?
Okay, thank you very much, Roland, for this opportunity. I must say that, as you clearly stated, Article 67 of the Constitution mandates the President to carry out this exercise every year. And so I am actually not expecting too much from the President. What I am expecting is for the President to be able to address the challenges. I won't call them problems. I'll say they are challenges that we have, because we believe that with the best policies in place, pragmatic ones of course, we will be able to address these challenges, and especially the challenge of youth unemployment. You know, all over the country there are people, the youth, you know, especially talking about unemployment issues, and then some have even formed unemployed, Graduate Unemployed Association of Ghana, or Unemployed Graduate Association of Ghana, and all that. But I am actually expecting the President to talk about these issues, not only talking about these issues, but putting a formidable team in place to implement strategies that will be able to deal with the situation. Youth unemployment. Secondly, I am also expecting the President to deal with environmental problems that we have. You know, right now you have issues of polythene bags everywhere, which is choking our gutters and then worrying the whole environment. The President should be able to deal with that. The President should be able to deal with the attitude of workers. You know, the productivity level of Ghanaian workers. In fact, we all know that it is nothing to write home about. And where we live in a situation where over 70% of government revenue is spent on wage bill, you know, workers' salaries and all that, we need to actually get that maximum input of workers in order to grow as a country. And the very important issue that I want the President to deal with, which will be able to solve the unemployment issues, the environment issue, is agriculture. Agriculture. Making agriculture very attractive for the youth, especially the graduates. It is because we are not able to package agriculture very well. That is why most people think that it is not for the graduates, or it is not for the literates, that it is only for my people in the village, or for some people who are not educated, I mean to say so. And so I'm expecting that from the President. You know. Okay,
we'll have to take a short break. Okay. We'll be joined by Nana Agyemang Oforiatta, Nana Fridwa Agyemang Oforiatta, and he's a media practitioner, of course, and he will also be talking on the subject and what the expectation is of the State of the Nation address, as he, in his own objective mindedness, will think that the President will present before members of Parliament this very morning. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back. Okay, so now we have been joined by Nana Fridwa Ajiman Oferiatta, his name is what he is going to leave behind as his legacy, beyond all the worldly things as well. But also take away with him.
I take my name with me when I die.
So take with him when he's going away to that place. And welcome. And I always hear you on various platforms commenting on national issues. Now, I would want us to touch on something that's on the front page of the Daily Graphic. It talks about the president explaining use of Ashanti to pilot capitation grant, and the story on page 16 of the paper says President John Dramani Mahama has stated that the choice of Ashanti region to pilot the capitation of the National Health Insurance Scheme was not meant to discriminate against people of the region, as it's been speculated. He said the choice was informed by the diversity of the population in the region, its density, and therefore the likelihood of the pilot scheme yielding findings that will guide future decisions for the National Health Insurance Authority. And he said currently government has tasked a team of technocrats and stakeholders to review available results from the implementation of the pilot scheme, and that immediately the recommendations, when they are ready, they will come up with a policy direction or directive on the future use of this very whole scheme, the capitation concept. And what do you make of it? Especially this has resulted in a number of officials either have been part of the National Health Insurance Authority, the Ministry of Health, etc., making serious pronouncement about whether the use of the capitation on a national basis will be very fruitful at all.
Okay. First of all, I haven't fully understood this capitation business. I don't know, maybe you want to explain it further. But the bigger issue for me is that I don't think the president's arguments or excuses sit very well. Diversity and population density to pilot a scheme that would be challenging to the health of people. I don't think they sit well. First of all, you don't take density, the fact that there are a lot of people in the Ashanti region. I'd be bothered that in terms of health, looking at people's health, you'd want to test an area where there are a lot of people. I mean, the risk is very high. The people who will suffer will be more. And this is supposed to be a pilot scheme. So how can that be the excuse? I don't see how that can be the excuse. Then the second thing is diversity. What does that mean? Ethnic diversity or what? Or age diversity? I mean, we need a clearer explanation of that. Those 2 points do not sit well. They just don't sit well. And given the initial experiences that they had, negative experiences that they had,
especially from the service providers,
immediately they should have cut it. You know, they should have stopped and re-looked at the whole thing again. I mean, this whole policy does not appear to be working. It's not sitting well with people. If they haven't done their piloting properly, they should take the plane back. I mean, it's not working. So for me, these two excuses the president gives clearly are terrible excuses. And I'd have thought that they would have thought through a little bit more. Because you are piloting something. So in other words, you are testing it. And if you are testing it, it's to do with health. It cannot be that population density is what you will use to measure it. It's the initial application of it is what I'd suspect that you want to measure. And therefore, you want to try only on a handful of people, small community. Then you go to the next stage. That's why pilots on human beings tend to take a long time, because it doesn't happen overnight. When you pilot a building, that's a different structure. But when you're talking about human beings, it takes time. So you don't go boom to a whole bunch of people. And then again, this matter of diversity, I still just don't get it. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's another explanation, but I doubt that even that will sit very well. This is...
I guess it's referring to the population diversity. And if you talk about population diversity,
it's everywhere in Ghana.
It's
everywhere in
Ghana. The sex, the various demographics that
It's everywhere in Ghana. You can't tell me that there are only men in a particular village or region. It's not possible. There aren't only women in a particular age. And they're all ages, from 0 or day 1 to even 100 years you can find in all. So what is the issue? The policy on health insurance is clear. It aims to mitigate problems with regard to health service. And so everybody who got onto the scheme because they saw the benefit. So you come in and you create something else. Even now talk about pilot. The National Health Insurance Scheme itself, from when it started, has not gone through enough phases for you to begin to introduce certain schemes like this that create problems. You should have, when they were coming into office, the argument was that the way it was being done wasn't, and then they were going to do a one-time payment. If you remember, all those things came into play. Eventually, look at what's happened. It's a total mess, incompetence at its best. And I remember during the 2012 election period, Mr. Sylvester Mensah was on your airwaves, multimedia airwaves, lambasting Akufo-Addo on these issues he raised about NHIS. And Akufo-Addo had said that it was going down. It was a big problem. He said no, and he was short of real invectives, but just about the same thing. Eventually, he now commits to the fact that there are problems. So who's being honest about this? And then you bring this so-called capitation matter. It just doesn't sit well.
Now, capitation, and if you know very well, it just basically means that as far as undertaking payment within a certain threshold, we have caps. And so if you provide a certain service up to a certain level, then you fall into a certain category. And so basically that's what it says. And if you know capitation very well, we're being told that across the world where it's been implemented, it's worked adequately.
Yeah, of course. I have not read much about that capitation thing, but I believe that when this whole thing started, I followed a bit, you know, and I believe that it is a program or it's a policy that is brought to actually enhance the already existing NHI's policy, what is going on. And what Nana is saying, that he doesn't understand why the Ashanti region could be used, the reasons given by the president, the population density, and then for the diversity of the region. We know that in Ashanti region you have different kinds of people there. We know that in Ashanti region the population is so huge. So if you want to pilot a program, something like this, you are also looking at what it will do in terms of numbers. Like when you have a lot of people that you are doing, because remember, this is going to be used for the whole Ghana. And so you should be able to envisage, you should be able to get the challenges that will come out of it because of the population. And then because of the diversity, as we have spoken about. So I think it's the best explanation the president has given. Those who will understand the president will understand. Those who have deliberately refused to understand the president will do so, because this system, this whole system, we know that is being brought to check some loopholes in the NHIS thing. And people are not going to be benefiting, you know, the way they benefited in the past through this NHIS policy thing. So I think that is it. I mean,
Nana Fridwa Ajman, then I guess the sense of direction that the president wants to take the national health insurance is because it is a crucial health matter. It is at the center of health provision in Ghana.
Yeah, but I don't think my brother here wants us to discuss it, because he says there are some people who will intentionally not understand the president, and then there's no point in discussing it, because it means everybody's ingrained in their decision. So maybe you should change the topic. The point is that we have a real issue on the ground. It has been it's been eating the system for years. My brother thinks we shouldn't discuss it. He thinks that people have taken their position. You're talking about population density. You want to test people's health on an experiment, a whole lot of people at a time. It cannot be. You want to test it on a handful of people. And you want to make sure that it works. And you want to do your research properly so that you know that the demographics in that area fit the scheme that you're targeting. It doesn't seem that.
But would you say the misconceptions that usually have been attributed to the whole decision to pilot the capitation in Ashanti region are really forthright? Are the best, perhaps the best criticisms that?
What, the politics that's come out of it?
As a result. Yeah.
Well, I don't blame the people for thinking that, because if the thing is failing and you're still using it there, then it raises questions. The thing is that it is failing. And I'm saying that, an indirect response to my brother, there's no evidence that research was done before going to pilot it there. And you have to research it. The things that you seek to achieve, You do the research, you find out whether the numbers will fit your formula, you find out whether the people will fully appreciate what you're doing. Before you go in there, it doesn't appear that any of that was done. And then, if it was done, you'd have sensitized the people. How come nobody seemed to understand what was going on? So there's a total failure. Those excuses are unacceptable. And then, on a matter of diversity, again, the question is it ethnic diversity or what? Age diversity? I don't understand. Clarity on those issues, because that diversity can be found in any community, and so you can try it on a handful of people, not a whole lot of people. So that is why it is a failing excuse. It's as simple as that.
No, but Roland, I think that Nana is just oversimplifying the issue. That it's the total failure, and because it's a health thing, it must not be used on a lot of people. But this is a different issue. This one, as you rightly explained, it is just to get the amount of money the people will pay, and then that is in the system for them to go to hospital and access health care. It is not like a drug that is being used on the people that will affect them. So what studies has Nana, embarked upon to find out that the capitation grant...
The results are what is showing. The results that are showing are that service providers are pulling...
Please allow me to...
Is that not the case?
There's a story on the front page of the Daily Graphic, and you have it there. It talks about the Domahine having... booted somebody out of his community. In just very civil English, they call it banish. Well, so banish somebody, and that was following a sitting on Monday. And I know that you've been trying to get a grip on the story in itself. Do we still have all these traditional powers that the chiefs have still being enforced in the modern era?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that there's anything wrong. I have, I'm a traditionalist. I believe in the fact that we should use what is originally ours to assist managing. Society is dynamic, so a lot of things change. But the basic principles are still the same. The reality is that the state doesn't have a long enough arm in our system. It isn't strong enough across the country. So you need that assistance from traditional authority. Apart from that, society itself still has a very strong belief in our traditional systems, and the majority of them depend on the traditional way of doing things, our culture, what we are, to do a lot of the things that we do. So I'm not eager to see that you reduce or take away the powers of traditional authority. People would abuse it, yes, but so is whatever other system we're using. Recently, somebody used this power to destroy buildings, remember? I mean, people get destructive. So there's no...
That's a state agency.
Yeah, but so? Why? Is it not managing human beings? So it doesn't matter. So, and there are laws. You know what I'm saying? So there are people who will definitely, every now and then, you find abuse across.
Okay.
But the bottom line is a matter of discipline and managing our systems. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that you should...
Because the story, as a background, says that the Domahine is said to have given the order to one Mr. Ifayebua, who is said to have been, or is a hospital administrator in Doma. That is the Presbyterian Hospital in Doma, Hinkro. And it's basically just because there seemed to have been a built-up anger by the traditional authorities over the decision by the Presbyterian Hospital to construct a new mortuary instead of relying on an already existing mortuary put together by the community. That is by the Domahine himself through his own effort or the effort of the traditional area. And this has been in place for the last 10 years. Now, it's said by the arrangement, the mortuary built by the traditional authority was supposed to give part of its revenue to the hospital. Unfortunately, after the arrangement had been respected for some time, the managers of the mortuary discontinued the periodic payment of revenue to the hospital. And so the hospital also decided to put up their own, or wanted to put up their own. And that has been some level of discontentment or created some level of animosity between the two. How crucial is coexistence in in community?
Most important.
Between traditional authorities?
Most important. I think that you can't go into some... I mean, I can't walk into your studios and do what I like. You know what I mean? You have standards and all kinds of things. So there's no doubt that you need to regard that. Some miscommunications probably happened there. Some misunderstanding has probably taken place. And I'm sure it's solvable. But it's also interesting, though, and that this has shown up on the front page of the Daily Graphic on the day when the president is going to be speaking. It's a very strange thing that this is what makes the front page. I don't.
The Daily Graphic is not the only daily newspaper we have around.
That's not the point, though. This is the Daily Graphic, so it's a strange thing. Now, the domain did not respond to this matter, which means that if I were, in my opinion, the media is supposed to protect the people on the state side or on the individual side, whichever side. And therefore, you're supposed to protect certain things. There's a certain value in the domain not speaking. So I would have wanted that they go there and make sure that they understand the other side of the story before they narrate the whole thing. I don't mind that it's reported, but because the domain didn't speak, I would have wished that they went and asked for more detail on about the other side, because this, from what I read, most of it is on the public side of the discussion.
Traditional authorities and the actions that they take, especially in the modern era, and particularly this very incident.
Well, Roland, I think that, again, the time has come for us to clearly define the roles of traditional authorities, and then with the system we have, because Nana is a chief, I think he's been able to actually defend a little bit what is going on there. But I will say that this particular story, there should be much to it, because I don't think this will create so much problem in such a way that the Doma Hini will just say somebody should be banished from.
Well, in communities where the traditional ruler thinks that his powers are being usurped, and you know, the roles of traditional ruler have become even more paramount in the modern day, because when the perceived normal structures of democratic institutionalizations fail, sometimes the reliance is on the traditional authorities to breach that very gap and make sure there's that sense of unity. Okay, most of the time.
What are the
that
powers?
Sense of unity of purpose.
Oh, of course, I mean, it's very important, but what are the powers being usurped? In this particular story, we are talking about mortuary. You know, 2 mortuaries, that the traditional authority put up a mortuary first, and then the hospital decided to also put up its own mortuary. And what is the problem here? I believe that the 2 mortuaries, just like how the traditional authorities have been able to coexist with the hospital authorities over the years, they can also maintain the 2 mortuaries at the same time. So, but we need more. We need to go more into the story
now,
before
for the next 30 minutes, let's use it to discuss, I guess, what we have to do. The State of the Nation address. There's been the criticism that, well, the president should really not deviate from what the true state of the nation is. In your own observation, what do you think is the true state of the nation? I mean, very objectively.
Why would you think that I should be objective? I don't know what you mean by objective. We're talking about the state of the nation, and that's what we need to know. We need to know what is happening. There was supposed to be a plan. What was that plan? Because we seem to be all over the place about it. What went amiss in that plan? What is going to be done to fix what is missing, so that we can get a better situation, so that a year from now there'll be a better report than what is coming.
What plan are you talking about?
What is the plan that the government brought?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they supposedly had a plan. I'm sure there was a bigger plan than EDB, Keke. There has to be a plan.
No, there's a manifesto for which the government was elected through the party into power.
And so what has happened? Because that's what supposedly people voted them into power for. And so they're supposed to be able to implement that. What has happened? All kinds of things have happened in between that we can tell and believe that, of course. I mean, these arguments about we're importing too much and all that. For me, those are not arguments, because those are things that have been going on for years. What have you been doing to try and mitigate it? What have you been doing? Did you ever think about that coming into office? Because those arguments were out on the table. When Acquah was talking about transforming the economy, it was in reference to these types of things. You threw it out the window, tried to make an argument against it, and have done nothing yourself. So what plan is there? The reality on the ground is that nothing is working. The reality on the ground is that
what do you mean by nothing is working?
What is working?
That's a very ambiguous
what
statement.
is working? When the government can't find chalk for schools, isn't that a problem? Fundamental.
You mean they can't find chalk, or they haven't made the allocations for the chalk?
Same thing. What's the difference? Is there chalk in the classroom? There's a problem. Fundamental. Fundamental. And you could produce the chalk in the country. Well, take the, in terms of infrastructure, take the Accra Apidra road. Professor Mills would bow his head every time he crossed that road, remember? He'd bow his head, he couldn't look up. You take power, following him, same party in power. What do? Instead of concentrating on trying to find the resources to finish that road, because it is a primary source for trade and industry and everything in between for Ghanaians. That road is a serious, very important road. Instead, look at the destruction of Nkrumah Circle. For an overhead, we can't even figure out what it's going to do exactly. Meanwhile, again, they don't even know exactly the character of Nkrumah Circle, because it is a major character. It's got its own way of life. So has that one been resolved? Because they claim that that will solve the problem. Are we sure? Monies are being dispersed in very strange ways that do not positively affect the country. So exactly what is going on? You're eager to make payments to people who haven't done work for the country, and so you go and litigate on it eventually. That in itself is a waste of time and money.
Are you talking about judgment that they've always been around us?
Yes, but have they caused the problems they're causing? Have they caused the problems they're causing? Where you take money and give to somebody who hasn't worked, and now we need money to pay teachers, and it's just a portion of that money you can't find. A portion for doctors you can't find. These are fundamental problems that are being raised, and we can't solve those problems. It's a serious. Look at this situation. Now I hope the president does not talk about electricity, because we cannot rely on his tongue. We can't rely on him.
Well, we'll come to the sectors.
Between last year and now, the number of promises he made, just on matters of Dumso, he said it was a thing of the past. I actually suppose even those were his words, a thing of the past. Last night into this morning, the lights in my house were off.
Because it rained, I guess.
Oh, is that not a shameful excuse? Because of rain? Is that the first time it's rained in Ghana? So it raises issues. It raises fundamental issues. In the meantime, water. Major problem. We're not solving that either. We're not getting the real answers.
A major pipeline burst, so that's a...
Should that cause the whole country or the...
It's not country, it's only Accra.
Very well, the major capital to go down? Should that be the case? Should we not even have a contingency plan for the situation where things like this can happen? I mean, they're real issues, fundamental. You want to go and come back, I'll wait for you.
Okay, Nana Fredwa is pointing out very, serious issues, really, that are physical for people to cite, and these are things that he's citing. The president really needs to come to Parliament and say, yeah, these are the problems that are bedeviling the country, and this is how my government is going to resolve them.
Yeah, of course, that is what the president is expected to do. But, you know, this program, when I was coming this morning, I was just thinking that it is not going to be one of those programs where people come and...
Can you speak to the issue?
Yeah, well, I'm speaking to the issue.
That you're not antagonistic.
I'm not going to do that.
Just speak to the issue.
But what the point I want to raise, Roland, is that it's very important for us to actually speak to the issues and be very objective as possible, you know. And it's not just blame gaming, you know, recounting those leakages, those things that we have listened to.
The issue.
You see? So what I mean is that the president is coming to Parliament this morning. The president is going to address his people. I mentioned from the beginning that Yes. Yes. We have some challenges.
But let me ask a critical question.
Okay.
I guess in my questioning, I made reference to the responses of Nana Freddo-Agyeman, not necessarily because I want you to answer to him,
okay,
but because he's made some very pointers which are physical. For example, we've had problems with energy supply, water supply, utilities. Workers have serious difficulties with their wages. The intention even was that there will not be any discussion for daily minimum wage this year, but now the workers are insisting they have to. There are issues that have confronted payment to service providers and the national health insurance because their allocations are just not coming. So these are issues that we have to speak to. That is why I'm asking that very question. It's not you speaking directly to the responses of Nana Freddo-Agyeman.
Roland, is there any human institution without challenges or without problems?
And as a result of that,
as a result of that,
to resolve problems.
Very good, to resolve problems. But throughout Nana Freddo's presentation, did you hear any single, solution to the problem? That is why I'm saying that we have come here not to be part of the problems, but to make sure that we give some solutions to the problems. Nobody is saying that, well, President Mahama is God, President Mahama possesses the magic wand to make sure that things happen in just a minute. That didn't happen when Nana Freddo's government was in power. That didn't happen. So now, what should we do? I mean, that's why I'm saying that the president will come and tell us he promised those sectors, the energy, the water and all that, but we all know that there are some circumstances beyond the control of human beings. For example, a pipeline bursting, or for example, rain falling, storm, and then pulling down electricity poles and all that.
So far that has not been reported in the media that we have a typhoon.
The lights went out before rain. The lights went out at 8 in the evening.
I don't think it was exactly 8.
What do you mean by you don't think? I'm telling you an experience, you're telling me you don't think so. I'm telling you that
my light is also
I don't live with you. Where I was,
so lights didn't go out when the MPP was in power. That is what Nana Freddo is saying. Lights didn't go out.
Is that what I said?
No,
that's what I'm saying.
I said that the president made us promises.
That is why I'm saying that. You see, now, I've only heard problems. I've not heard anything. Like, Nana is an experienced man.
Well, I do understand you. You see, my difficulty with your responses is that you're only responding to Nana. I want us to have a very...
He's not providing solutions himself.
I just want us to have a discussion. The gentleman is the president of the Republic of Ghana.
Yes.
As mandated by the Constitution, he's supposed to give this statement to Parliament on what the situation is in the country, and even prefer if the solutions there are that his government is already implementing. I'm sure the budget gives a lot of indication as to how expenditures, etc., will be made. So then we have identified as a people that these are the serious challenges. We have problems with energy, utilities, etc. So do we think the president needs to come there and reiterate that, and then also give indications as to how these would be resolved? So basically,
at the beginning of the program, before Nana came in, I explained, I spoke about these issues very well before he came in. I am saying that I believe the president knows what is happening in Ghana, and I believe that the president is capable enough to come and explain the issues to the people. He will come and explain why this has happened, why this has not happened. You see? So I am not actually responding to Nana or responding to anybody, but what I'm saying is that you have not asked us to actually come here and just recount the problems, but you've asked us to come here to actually anticipate what the president will come and say. As we are sitting here, we have not yet read the script of the president to know whether the president is going to address A, B, or what. We are all suggesting that this is what we want the president to do. I have mentioned the areas I want the president to tackle. And just expecting Nana to also mention the areas, but just problems.
And you're telling me that I should. You want to tell me what to do?
Problems. No, I'm not telling you
I
what to do.
told you what I expect the president to say.
Let's
I told you what I expect the president to say.
Discussion this morning. Okay, Nana,
I told you what the president wants to say.
Okay,
experience. He's a very experienced, politician, and
it's nothing to do with it. This is what I expect the president to say. I've told you, and you are bothered by that.
All right. So
what I'm saying is that the president will come and address the issues on energy, address issues on agriculture, address issues on youth unemployment, address issues on environmental degradation, address issues on human security.
Okay.
You see, that's what...
But you heard the English he used. He said the president will come and address. In other words, you are very clear about what he wants to do or what he's going to do. I'm telling you that these are the issues on the ground. So you can come and talk about all those things, but even those things, you do not address what is on the ground. You'd have failed us. I don't know what you don't understand by those words, but it is as simple as that.
Beyond the very issues of utilities and the basic socio-economic issues that confront Ghanaians, serious economic issues that also need to be resolved. More recently, we've had problems with the economy, and we're still having. The Bank of Ghana has come out with regulations and all. Well, the little things that touch the lives of the people, electricity, water, etc., touch their lives daily. But these are fundamental issues that border eventually, in the short, medium, and long term, on the functionality of various sectors within the economy. He can't come to Parliament without not talking about it, for example. Depreciation of the city and all.
Roland, I addressed those things earlier.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to repeat them because I'm glad you've asked, because I don't mind repeating. The fact is that if you do not come with a plan that is clear, and I raised the matter of transformation.
And I've asked you what plan you were talking about, because I know that for every government that is elected, they're elected based on the assessment made by the voters, based on what they intend coming to do in office.
Very well. So, when Acquah talks about a transformational economy and highlights all the things that need to be done, including making sure that we Ghanaians...
Well, that's Acquah. Acquah is not in power. No, we have the president in power.
You asked for solutions. I'm pointing you to where the information is. To tell you to Ghanaianize things so that we get to a stage where we stop heavy dependence on these things. People threw that out the window. The President Mahama and his team threw it out the window. And look at where we are today. And now when they sit on air, they ask for everybody to come with solutions. But that is not why you were given power. You were given power because you had a certain foresight that would give you the capacity to do so. So now the challenge is, you have come into the 6th year of your governance as a political party. You are in as president. What have you to offer us? Because where we sit now, things do not go well. And you have admitted it yourself. Your finance minister has admitted it himself. Your own party officials and government officials, in one form or the other, sometimes admit it, and then another bunch will come and deny it. In all that, what we expect are real answers to questions. The question of the city. What is the real problem? I'm not an economist, and I won't claim to know how to solve that problem. But I'll claim to tell you one thing, that those who depend on it heavily for imports, for exports, are the ones who are crying. Those who depend on it heavily to determine their profits down the line are those who are crying. And those of us who are the consumers of those things that people bring in or take out or whatever it is, suffer because inflation is going to kill us. Everything.
You're an importer, I believe.
No.
You don't import anything?
No. The rate at which fuel prices keep changing, for example, and its effect on us now. Now you can't buy a gallon of any kind of fuel for less than for 10 cedis or less. You can't, as far as I know. At least the fuels that fuel vehicles. You can't buy diesel or petrol for less than 10 cedis. And yet the incomes of people are same. Now the value of that income is reduced. So what are we doing? What are we talking about? Where are we going? Those are the real questions. Those are the real questions. When you take a CD, the value is less than when they took power.
Do you agree that perhaps government, through the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana's own recent policies on making sure that the CD does not continuously depreciate against the dollar and the other major trading currencies has been the right step and part of the solution, really, in resolving the current difficulties we have.
Oh, well, I agree that this is part of the solution, but it's just a short-term measure, you know. But from the medium to the long term, I believe the president is looking at industrialization of our economy based on agriculture. As you've read in some papers, the factories at Pualugu tomato factory, Komenda sugar factory, we need these things to move. I want to say that I expect the president to actually focus so much on agriculture, because if we do that, that is going to actually make sure that the economy is developed. Why am I saying that? On agriculture alone, let me just give you this scenario. On agriculture alone, let's say we have in the western region, we have cocoa farms. Now this cocoa farm, we say, okay, fine, we are going to put up this industry to process the cocoa. We are not exporting only the raw materials, but let's do some processing.
So basically you're talking about value addition.
Value addition, that's what I'm talking about. We process this cocoa, we can employ accountants, we can employ farmers, we can employ all manner of people.
Well, those are just the basics you're talking about.
These are the basics, that is the thing that we are missing. I guess the
fundamental picture everybody has a hint of.
Very good.
The point is, what actions have we so far seen
that is the thing.
To resolve the current medium to long-term problems that we've always identified? Nana made mention of, Nana Akufo-Addo during the last campaign, talking about a phrase, the gorgeous back economy. It just basically means that over-dependence on imports and not putting value on whatever raw materials that you get from your own resources or from your ground, so to speak, if we're talking about agriculture. And we've always identified that since...
that is the thing. We've always identified
since
that.
Independence.
Very good. That is why I am expecting...
So what do you think that the president needs to come and say, based on whatever pronouncements already have been said by his own finance ministers, to convince people that really they are on top of the subject?
Yeah, that is why I am saying that Nana mentioned that this economic issues and all that. I am not an economist myself. I don't know much about this economic issue so much. But I believe that fundamentally, if the president is able to convince Ghanaians that, come on, let's grow what we eat, let's make sure that we enter into agriculture. If the president is able to put in place a formidable team of experts who will be able to implement these agricultural issues, because that's what you said. We've talked about it over and over and over. People come and explain that agriculture, over 60% of the Ghanaian economy, all these theories are now over. Though I believe that the president should now be looking at the practical aspect of the whole thing. And everybody should look at that. For me, I am for any organization that will be able to come out and say that, President, this is what is happening, let's build this factory here so that we can produce this to support the factory, make sure that our youth get work to do. That is what I am in support of.
Now we have to take a look at what currently confronts the country. There are basic things, for example, for utilities. While the rates may be going up, the service provision in themselves are difficulties even for the utility companies. Perhaps we need a radical change.
And those are the things we expect to hear. That these are the decisions we are taking, and we believe that this time around they will work than the previous ones we took. The president must accept failure and admit it and apologize and just move into, I'm sorry that we took this decision, it didn't go well, we're going to take this decision. And my brother talks about he needs a team of experts. It means that everybody around him has failed it. Because he's supposed to have been working with those experts already. He's been in power almost 2 years as president. You know what I'm saying? So you expect that some basic things should be taking place already. So if it hasn't, well, come and let us know. Parliament is where we the people are represented. In Parliament is where, when he talks to any parliamentarian there, it doesn't matter which political party, the rest of us are being represented by them. So he must come clean to the people on exactly what is going on in this country. When it comes to the utilities, as you're talking about, you must come clean. For me, for example, and apologies to my brother, I have to recount history. You come into office, you change some very key actors. For example, in ECG. They took away the boss and all kinds of things to happen there. Put on people like Alote Jacobs, no expertise, to come and advise the management of ECG. Eventually, look at where we're heading. And look at the kind of money that was spent on them. You raise questions. What did you come to change? That's what we need to feel. Now, tell us that you're changing something. Let Ghanaians feel that in the short time that you have left in office, you're going to be able to do something. Because we cannot continue on this track. When it comes to water, again, the best pipeline is uncontrollable. You know, I'm not even going to think that, like the president said about people and arson and burning of property, that some people are supposed to have done it. I wouldn't say that anybody went to intentionally destroy the pipes. But were we ready? What systems are in place? Look, there used to be a public sector reform ministry. Right now it's reduced to a department. They'll tell you that there's a minister in charge of it, but go there and see what happens. It would have helped streamline all these things. That's what the value of those things. So what new ideas did you bring? My brother was referring to Pualugu Tomato Factory. Nkrumah built that thing. Over the years, we've all contributed to its thing, the reduction. Not only should you revive it, you should create new industries. Where are those new ones that you've created? None have happened as far as I can see.
Well, if not created, then
when we have a problem.
Now, when will they be created? What plan do we have for?
Exactly.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? The opportunities are there and you're not doing it. And then because they're doing all cronyism and all those things are going on.
Those are allegations.
So, are they? Are they allegations? Are they? The 40s and all that, are they allegations? I mean, people are worried about those things, and these are real facts. This is not an average's personal experience. These are experiences across the country. And so there are fundamental things that we need to, and I don't know where the president has to start from, but he needs to give us a package of apologies, of corrections, of admissions, and then of a vision. That's this one. As for this, we can do it and we will do it.
For example, we're just getting a GIPC report that talked about decline in FDI, so to speak, or even the projects in themselves, the value of those projects compared to what happened in 2012. And consistently we've been told that is also because we've gone through 8 months of a grueling period of election petition. Do you think such attributions are just mere excuses, but in altruism are the real facts?
No, but Roland, how can that just be mere excuses? Because if let's take for instance, you are an investor and you want to invest somewhere, maybe in the family, you want to buy a plot of land in that family. When you give them money, they will have some money to actually do things in the family. But you've heard that the two sons in that family are fighting over that land. Would you be ready to, you know, put that money into that land? No, you would wait after the issue is resolved before you enter. So when people say that the election petition did not actually affect the economy or did not affect FDIs, people are just being economical with the truth. They are not speaking objectively, you know. And so I believe that it is now that the investors, or is now that the foreign investors know that the country is now being ruled by the legitimate ruler, and now they can bring their monies in, they can bring their investment into the system. And so, but what Nana, the question you asked Nana about the attitudes of the leaders or those service providers and all that, I thought that it was a very significant point for us to actually talk about a little longer, because the attitude of workers, of Ghanaian workers, all of us, is something that we must look at, Roland. And I will plead with the media to actually do something more about that, because if I say we have leadership problem, leadership, I'm not talking about president, but small institutions that we have, those institutions that we have, the leaders there, what are they doing? Any little problem we are talking about president. Any little problem, top president. What about the people there? What are they doing? And so we want, I actually want the president. I'm not coming to sit here to say that everybody, all those people manning the institutions are doing everything right. No.
Okay.
I will say that the president should be able to check some of them. Some of them should actually be, you know, advised properly to do the right thing.
And a very good excuse, if because of the current problems we're having, we keep using the election petition as an excuse. For example, significantly declining has been what the existing projects have been from, and these are figures from the GIPC, 19% from 2012. 3.9 billion, that's 19% reduction.
What figures?
We're talking about investments coming into Ghana last year in quantum. And then 5 billion that was compared to $5 billion that was recorded in 2012.
So it went up?
It went down. It went down by 19% from 5 billion to 3.9. Okay. 3.9 billion. Now in the projects themselves, in 2013. Yeah. So at the end of the fiscal period, this is what we have. Right. 5 billion in 2012, the election year, and then also after the election year, because with all the problems we've had, 5 billion. And then also the projects reducing themselves, 417 projects to 399. Perhaps there's some level of truth when those attributions are made. That perhaps there was some level of instability as well.
But there was bound to be. So I find it a truism that shouldn't be an issue.
So they should, you are saying that it should have been futuristic?
There was bound to be. What did the president do to mitigate that? When there's uncertainty in your home, what do? You give confidence to the people. If somebody wants to come to your house and they think they hear a lot of shouting, yo, don't worry, this shouting, it'll pass. We know what is coming. Say that to people. Tell people that what is happening in your country is a good thing.
How? How?
Well,
just talk to the people and that is all.
If you listen to me, you'll hear. If you listen, you'll hear. Tell the people that this court case that is on, it is the proper thing to do. And so we will let it happen. And as for me, I have my prayers. My opponent too has his prayers, but the court to decide. When did it take the president, or how long did it take him to even admit that what was going on was something that was worthwhile? Do you get my point? When you are coming to my house and I tell you that my brother and I, the shouting you hear is friendly, so don't worry. When you are coming, you will come and even probably join and laugh.
And so the person will just come.
Why not?
Without any apprehension.
I'm saying that if I give you the confidence, the apprehension is before I give you the confidence. You have that apprehension before I give you the confidence. Now when I tell you that, don't worry. And even he is also able to say the same. If the two of us are able to tell you that this back and forth that we're doing, it is not a big deal. It is we have to go through a certain process. After all, he and I are disagreeing. Somebody watching us might think that we're bitter enemies. But there's nothing to it other than we're discussing issues. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So if you let the person...
But from the outside person, even the point is... If image is everything, and whatever the atmosphere gives the indication.
So how you mitigate it is by making sure that people know that there's nothing to it other than what you see. It is like how people talk about parliamentarians. They always tell you that when you go to their coffee room, they are sitting and laughing together.
So you're saying the election petition didn't have any effect at all? Because clearly the figures did.
No, what I'm saying is that the effect that it had on it is not what we're reflecting here. It is the shortage of competence on the matter of governance. What happened during that? What happened during that period? Didn't the government go for a bond? Did they succeed or not? Those who gave that bond...
Oversubscribed, we were told.
Very well. Why did they do so? Was that a lack of confidence in the system? So what exactly are we referring to? It is the government's own indecisions, its own failings, to take some basic actions to give people confidence in what was going on. Is what would have happened. The government itself eventually now shirked its responsibility. If you remember, somewhere August, September or so, Mutala, the deputy minister, said that Acquah is the one who was causing problems when Acquah left the country. So,
but Mutala is not here to respond.
He doesn't have to. It's public record. It's on your website. So, what exactly are we trying to say? That you don't know what to do? And that's where the issue is. As far as I'm concerned, it's child's play when they raise issues of the court because of their own shortcomings. The real concerns on the ground was that when it was going on, what were you doing with government?
Do you think
they were getting paid?
Do you think that the budget overruns that were recorded at the end of 2012, as it reflected in 2013, we're still
the
having
600 million overspend and all those things? It was a killer.
Do you think that we're still having the repercussions?
But of course, when you've thrown away money, you remember again. And I do this in honor of my brother. Acquah talked about free education and gave you a budget of some 700 million in the first year or so. Do you know that these people spent 600 million in the 3 months that Acquah was campaigning about this matter? They were spending 600 million. Now take the 10 regions. 600 million divided over each. Each region gets 60 million to get children to go to school for free. Then in my region, Eastern region, where I'm vice chairman for my party, there are 33 constituencies, but let's take 30. 30 constituencies, divide 60 million by that. Each constituency gets 2 million CDs. Can you imagine what 2 million CDs would do for children in any constituency? This is the kind of thing that was going on. So when we now start getting the feedback, 2-3 years later, children are still at home because they can't go to school. In one of the papers, teachers are still threatening strikes. The president has to deal with that. The president has to deal with this bevlostruction that took place in Legon. We need to be told clearly what exactly is going on, because it seems to have had the president's assent on that.
Let me just do the news on the air. Then I come to give the last word to my brother here, and then we take Marcus to give us just his last word before we go for a break. Well, we have the latest news on the air, and so we'll give you what the headlines are. Well, so now let's give you the news on the arm. The president is expected to address Parliament in the State of the Nation this morning, and economist and also a member of Parliament, Dr. Sayasibi, says he expects President Mahama in his State of the Nation address to come out with pragmatic medium to long-term policies to build the economy into a resilient one. He also called on government not to set over ambitious targets in the address, as it could not meet its macroeconomic and revenue targets set for the last fiscal period. The investments that were recorded into Ghana's economy in the last fiscal period, according to the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, declined significantly, and the figure came down by 19% to $3.9 billion in 2013 compared to almost $5 billion recorded in 2012. Well, these figures were contained in the fourth quarter investment report of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, which also captured the inflows into Ghana. According to the GIPC, it registered 417 projects for last year compared to 399 projects in 2012. However, for the monetary value of these projects, they declined from $5.6 billion in 2012 to $4.2 billion last year. Okay, so we just continue for some few minutes and then we wrap up. Your comments on?
Well, my comment on what we are talking about that the president will be saying this morning. Let me again say that I am expecting the president to actually address issues or talk about issues of unemployment and the way he's going to fight that. And I believe that agriculture is the way. If we are able to put in place the necessary programs and plans, we can package agriculture to make it more attractive.
Nana has been talking about a plan. It's not as if that he's the only one who is is the one mooting the idea, but I guess
of course.
all proponents, agriculture alone cannot solve our problems, but the plan needs to be there, and the plan needs to be followed.
That's
now,
what I'm saying.
What is the plan? That's the whole problem.
That is what I'm saying. So we don't know the plan. That's why we are calling on the president. You know, what we are doing here is to just call on the president to do what we expect him to do. We cannot take decisions for him. If he decides to follow what we are saying, fine. But we see that it is very important for us to actually go into agriculture more and package it in a way that will be very attractive for everybody. You know, we must industrialize our system. We must stop depending so much on imported goods. You know, I was talking about our attitudes as Ghanaians. I would also like the president to address the issue of what we do to whatever we produce in the country as Ghanaians. There is this lack of education, lack of information about our own things. We over-depend on things outside this country more than what we have in our country. And that one, it is not going to take the president to do it. You and I, all of us on the ground, should actually try and say that if you are patronizing this made in Ghana thing, you are supporting or you are giving a job to somebody in Ghana. That is what I believe in. And
all right. Thank you very much. We have had in the studio Marcus, Gavin, Anambra.
You know quickly that Marcus is was very eager to see foreign investors come in, and yet he says that we should buy local goods. It doesn't work. He wants you to do Yes, you did.
No, I said people should patronize. It doesn't mean that
you said that because of the court case, foreign investors didn't come in.
But there's a difference between the two, right?
The difference is that when you do local things,
yes,
it is Ghanaians who produce it.
Beautiful.
When you bring a foreign investor, they displace the Ghanaian.
Not necessarily.
Yes, it is so because
not necessarily.
Unless the Ghanaian brought the foreign investor, if the foreign investor comes, typically you give them breaks, tax breaks and things that you haven't been giving Ghanaian businesses.
Yes, true.
So what does that do to Ghanaians?
That's true, but it depends on the structure of the policy in itself and how it's implemented. That's the whole point.
Let's see the plan.
Well, so Nana Fredwajman Oforiatta, and he's the vice chairman of the MPP for the Eastern region.
I am. The second vice chairman.
Second.
It's important.
Second vice chairman.
Because there's a first, you see.
There's a first. Okay, so we've been talking about the President's State of the Nation address, what everybody expects, right? So that was it for AM Talk this morning. Thanks for joining me this morning, gentlemen.